Hey everybody, Bryce here from codelife.io, and today we're going to be building a simple website. As you can probably see here, we have our home page, we have about, which that's not me, these are some pictures I found, and we'll say a news page, so it's a little kind of 2-column layout, nothing crazy, but what we're going to be doing here specifically is we're going to be using React-Bootstrap. So I have another tutorial out there where I use React to build a simple web page that's pretty similar, but I use just plain old vanilla Bootstrap, well, Bootstrap version 4. But here we're going to use React-Bootstrap, which is actually a rewritten implementation of Bootstrap 3, kind of all the jQuery stuff. So you can see in the documentation, stuff like if we go to layout, you actually use these components. So they've made everything into a component instead of using classes. You really just use these, and then your class names, they're just kind of to toggle certain features on and off. But most of it's done through props. So you'll pass these properties into the component, like this here. And that will trigger, kind of set the values instead of using classes. So it's a little bit different. All the pictures you're going to see, I got them from this website called pexels.com. So here's a picture taken by Stefan. Thank you for the picture, Stefan. You can see all the people here. I just typed in person, did a search. And then I came over here and I cropped my pictures with Crapola, which is pretty cool. It'll actually figure out the best composition for you if you use this Crapola setting. And you can pick cover, you can pick, if it was a Facebook photo, certain ratios, 16:9, big, small, center it, whatever you want to do. To even recognize and try to find the face, the best position for the face. Pretty cool. And then all the text on the page, I just used at bobrosslipsum.com, and it's pretty awesome. You generate paragraphs here, see how many quotes per paragraph, and you can even tell it to spit out paragraph tags for you. So I use that to kind of fill in the text. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Let's head over to our terminal, and we're going to use Create React App, like you've seen me use in my other videos. And we'll call it React Bootstrap. So let's go ahead and generate a new React app for us. This is probably the fastest and easiest way to do this. Highly recommend it. So it's going to go ahead and fetch all our dependencies. All right, and it's got some instructions: yarn start the dev server, yarn build, to build it, all the static files for production, which you then can go and put on a server and run them. So let's go ahead and actually want to open up Visual Studio Code. Perfect. Oh, actually I want to close that real quick. I'm going to cd into the directory first, then open it up. All right, there we go. Now we're looking good. So we got this public directory here. I'm going to go ahead and create a assets directory. That's where we're going to store all our pictures. So we can grab those actually right now. And these are the ones I cropped earlier. So we can drop them in there. Perfect. So we got all our pictures. Source. Here we have app.js. Great. So let's head over to React Bootstrap. And if we go up here, we go to documentation, getting started. It'll tell you what you need to install. So we're using yarn, so this command will be a little different here, but we definitely want this React Bootstrap. Let's go back over to our terminal, and we'll type yarn add React-Bootstrap. We also want React Router DOM for our navigation. So let those install. Great. So now we should be able to run yarn start and see our site in action. Perfect. So this is kind of what you get out of the box. There's nothing to it just yet, because we still need to use Bootstrap here. So just a note, this is Bootstrap 3, version 4. They got a, they're working on it right now. So then it says you got to grab this here. Perfect. And let's go over to our code. And we're going to go to the index.html. And we'll just paste that in there. Make sure it's indented properly with the tab. Save that. Perfect. So that should be good. So we take another look. So the font's a little different. Looking good so far. So now let's actually go here and let's rename this to JSX. That way we'll get some auto completion in here. Hopefully everything's still working. Nope. Can't find it. I think we just need to restart our server here. So you can just press up on the directional pad, go to the last command. Hopefully now it'll actually find it. Great. So no biggie there. We just need to restart the server. And let's go ahead. Next. Let's see. Let's go ahead and create a few components. So I'm going to create a new directory here. Call it components. And inside of components, we want to create a couple of new files. So let's say about.jsx. Say about.css. Say call it news.jsx. News.css. And we want a home page. Let's call it home.jsx. Also have home.css. And we are going to have a custom navbar.jsx. Perfect. So let's close this up here. It's a little more readable. And if we go to each one of these components here, let's start with home actually. That's probably the best one to do. And for the home component, so let's type home. So we import React and component from React. That's all looking good. So now we need a couple more imports here. And we're going to import link from the React Router library. React Router DOM specifically for web. And we're going to import, we'll say the jumbo, can't spell it today, Jumbotron, the grid item, row, column, image, and finally button from React-Bootstrap. So you notice these are all the components essentially that normally would be CSS classes. And we want to import finally our home.css. Great. So now in here, I'm actually going to wrap this in a grid. So grid essentially is like your container in normal CSS classes. Then we also want to have the Jumbotron. Let me close that. Great. And we want H2 in here that says, welcome to Code Life. Put .io. And paragraph tag, and we'll say, this is how to build a website with React, React Router, and React-Bootstrap. Perfect. And let's put a link in there. And what you do is you put 2, and you put the URL you want to go to. So this will create basically like an anchor tag. Or the A tag, you probably know it. And so inside of there, we want to put a button. So this is a property type here. So it's called BS style, and you can set the style of the button. So there's like primary, secondary, danger or warning, and a couple others. They're kind of default Bootstrap classes. But here you pass it as props. So it's a little different. And we want to say, instead of learn more, let's make it, since we're on the about page, we'll just say about. That's good. / button. So that's all I'm going to do for now on that page. About JSX, I'll say and for news, do the same thing. And our custom navbar we'll get to in a second. So let's go over to app.jsx. So this is kind of our entry point, and then this ends up getting included into index.js, where we use React DOM.render. So it renders the app component into the root div, which if you see in index.html, basically have a single div on the page that our entire app gets rendered into. So that's how it works. So back over to app.js, JSX. And from here, we can get rid of this logo. Don't need that anymore. We can keep the CSS, and we're going to import browser router as router, and we want route from React router DOM. Then we'll import, call it home, from components / home. Import about from, kind of the same thing, components / about. And finally news from components / news. Easy enough. So then we're going to gut most of this here, actually all of it. And we'll place it with a router. This is how you make your pages route here. And we'll put a div in there just because I think we're going to need it. Otherwise it's going to complain, throw an error. You can try it out, but pretty sure you're going to have some problems. So then we define our routes here. We'll say exact path equals, we'll just say /, so that'd be our route, you know, if they don't put anything in. We just go straight to our website. And the component property, we will set to home. Let me copy this here. So in these ones, we do not want exact there. Let's call it about news and the component we'll set as a property will be about. And so instead of using double quotes here, I'm actually using these curly braces because everything that's getting rendered between here is actually JavaScript. So because we're using a variable, we want to use curly braces rather than setting it as a string with these two quotes. So if we do that, we'll get to that. They're not used, but we'll get to it. So that looks pretty good. Oops, I also have a bug on that page there. Back to home JSX. Yeah, there we go. Looks pretty good. So we go to /about page, news. So it works. It's not ideal. Looks kind of ugly, but we can fix that. So let's go. Actually, let's work on our custom navbar next here. And we'll do the same thing. And let's type in custom navbar. And from Bootstrap, we need to import a few things. So we navbar, nav item from React-Bootstrap. And we want to import link from, import's wrong. Import link from React-Router.dom. There we go. Great. So now here, we'll get rid of this, and we can put navbar, default, collapse on select. And I just literally got this right off the React Bootstrap page. So if you're unsure how to do this or wondering where I got it from, literally go there and copy it. I'm just modifying it just a little bit. So now we can say navbar.header, navbar.brand, and here we can use our link to, since this will be our brand for the site, and you could put a picture here. I'm just going to use some text right now. Oops. I'm just going to copy these guys here. There we go. And actually between, oh, I got them mixed up here. In between these two, we actually want navbar.toggle. So this will collapse it down when we're on a smaller device. And then we finally want navbar.collapse. And now we will put in our nav items here. So nav, and we'll say pull right. In our nav items, event key equals 1, because they want a unique key for each nav item here. So we'll actually specify that number. And we'll say component class equals link href 2. Oops. And we'll say home. That'll be the text. So this part I actually had to look up here because the code you'll copy off React-Bootstrap site will probably just have you do href. But if you do that, then you're not going to leverage the React router, which I wonder if we can even get away with without the href. It may still be valid. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. Save some time. Call it about news. Make that a 2 and then a 3. Let's try that out. Ooh. We're not going to see it because we haven't included it yet. So that should be it. So we go back over to app.jsx. From here, we can add our navbar. So let me import it. Custom navbar. And here, we'll just put navbar. Great. So it's not the exact colors we want. So what we can actually do, let's do a new file here. And we'll say custom navbar.css. And to save time, I'm just going to paste the CSS in there. Where'd it go? So I just went through and overrode a couple of the properties there. So you can find them if you just right click on this item here. It'll pull it up. And you can be like, oh, okay. And then just copy this code, including, oops. You get the point. Yeah, just copy that. Then you can go and change the color. Paste in your CSS, change the color. It's that easy. And so you just have to find kind of the React Bootstrap's a little tricky. Bootstrap in general has a lot of kind of hidden properties, so you may have to actually change the color of a few things, as you can see by 39 lines of code there. So I get rid of the border radius, no border, set a background image to none. We're setting the color to white for most of the stuff, and then setting a background color on it. So I need to actually include that in my custom navbar. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. I think we have some styles in app.css we want to get rid of. We're not using any of these here. Great. So now if we go over to home, and let's see where we left off. So we have the button. Drop in my CSS for now on home, just so we can see it coming alive here. So the Jumbotron, I just set up some margin on the bottom to give it a little space. Same on a class I'm going to call personal wrapper. Profile pics, we're going to make them half the width. Those are the 3 circle images you saw. And then we're going to override some colors and change our H3 heading tags to have a margin bottom of 1. So let's go over and write that code. So we go to home. So after the link here, actually I think the link need to be inside the Jumbotron tag. Yep. There we go. That's looking better. So now down below there, you can do a row, and we'll say class name, because you can't say class because class is a protected word. a reserved word in JavaScript. So we'll say show grid and text center. And then inside of our rows, we put columns just like we do in normal Bootstrap. But here we pass some properties, and we want to say we want 12 out of 12 grid sections taken up by this on extra small screen. So it'll be full width. Small screens, we only want to do 4. That way it breaks the page up into thirds. And this is where we'll give a class name of person wrapper. And inside here, instead of using an image tag like you normally would and saying source equals, actually use the Bootstrap version. And we're just going to say assets slash person one dot JPEG. And we're going to use the circle property, and let's give it a class name of profile pic. Perfect. And to save some time, I'm just going to paste in some text I have for this. So just create an H3 tag, and then we should be able to close our column tag. And let me close the row for right now. So we can take a look at that. Great. So it looks a little big, but that's okay. We'll get to that in a second here. So to save time, I'm just going to copy and paste the other 2 columns in there. These are all pretty large here. But we can figure that out in a second here. Oops, looks like our links aren't working. Something's going on here. Let's try restarting the server and see if that helps. Oh, you know what it is? On the Navbar, it's because I took out the href. So you do need it. Surprising. Oops. Try this again here. There we go. Now it's working. These pictures are still pretty big. You see they're overlapping. So profile pic. Oh, that's probably why. We got a typo in person wrapper. So let's go back to our home.jsx. And there's the typo, which you probably caught. Still look awfully big though. So you know what? Oh, look at this dot. It means I probably need to save here. Yep. That's all it was. Just need to save the page. Great. All right. So our page is looking really good. So let's go over to about.jsx. So this one's a little shorter. Shouldn't be as painful as the last one. Just remember to save. All right, grid, column, and image is what we need to import from React-Bootstrap. So you're starting to see a pattern here how React-Bootstrap is a little different than the way I did in my other video where we just included Bootstrap normally and then used the classes. Nothing wrong with it, just different. Some people prefer it because it's a more functional approach, because you pass properties into components and you can test that the component did what it was supposed to do. I prefer the classes over this. It seems a little bit faster developed, but for people who are big about their testing, I think it makes sense. So here, we're going to use that image component. And we'll say source equals assets slash, I call them dog people. And class name, give it an arbitrary name here. We'll call it header image. You call it whatever you want, just as long as you target it correctly in the CSS. So then we'll go grid. Remember, grid is just like using container in normal Bootstrap. That seemed to be kind of the one thing that was a little different. I'm surprised I didn't use the word container. Then XS equals, so extra small screens and below, which I think that's a small size, at least in Bootstrap 3. Then small equals, we'll say 8, because this is going to be our 2 column. So we want it to be roughly 2/3 of the page. And we'll do small offset equals 2. So this way it'll push it off the screen and kind of center it in the middle. Perfect. Oop. Close our tag. And inside of there, I'm going to put the picture for our fictional person named Frank. .jpg. So we're referencing that public assets directory. So even though it's up several directories, when it gets rendered on the screen, that's how it's rendered as a public directory. And we'll say class name equals, say, about profile pic, because we need to be careful because these names can collide. So if we had profile pic like we did in the home component and we use it here, that CSS properties are going to be applied to both. So that's the only tricky part. Is probably best to come up with a naming convention that has like the page it's on, dash, then the name of the item to avoid stuff like that. Or you can find your own strategy. I think that would work great though. And just an H3 tag, call it Frank the Tank. And I'm gonna paste in my text I got from that Bob Ross Lipsum. Perfect. So that's looking pretty good, I think. Not too shabby. So now let's go ahead and save that. Go to our About page. Oop. The picture is really big. Something's going on. Oh, that's because we didn't do our CSS yet. So go to about.css, and I just have some, not a lot, but the about profile pic. We're going to float it left. So you can see right now the text is all below, which maybe you want. I'm going to style it so it floats the picture left and the text kind of wraps around it. Then we need to make this picture a little smaller and tuck it up against that navbar. So let's just save that. So see that header image should pull it up to the top a little bit. And yep, so that looks a lot better. So now you see how it's kind of goes around the picture. I like it. Looking good. So now on to news.jsx. And here, we're going to do kind of a similar thing. Let's go ahead before we forget, import our news.css, and we'll import grid, row, column, and image from React-Bootstrap. Actually, I'm going to switch this around. My own custom imports should come after stuff that's coming out of libraries. Just a style thing. So we just put the big old word news there. Instead, I'm going to drop in an image, source equals assets from our public directory. And I called this picture mountainman.jpg. And we'll say class name equals header image. So we're going to piggyback off that previous header image we created. The CSS styling for it at least. And we're going to do a grid. So that's our container tag. And here I'm going to do, let's see, H2 for news. And then I'm going to do a row. Because we put columns and rows. Since these will both be on the same level, I want to make sure they all line up the same. So it'll be slash row. And for our first column, we're going to say extra small. We want to take up the full width, all 12 columns. When it's small, I want it to take up 8. And small and above, they'll expand out in both directions there. So class name will be main section. And I'm just going to copy over the text, the closing column tag here, just to save time. I just got that off the Bob Ross Lipsum. There's nothing crazy there. And why don't I just copy this to save some time. I'll call this sidebar. And I want this to take up a full width when it's on smaller devices. And 4 for anything larger. So we'll have kind of a 2/3 and 1/3 section here. And we want an image. And again, assets, our public assets directory. I'm just going to reuse the dog people picture. I think it's a pretty good picture. And I'm just going to copy over some of that Bob Ross stuff here. Oops. Tab it over. There we go. And let's do our news.css real quick. Not much there. Even though I gave a class name main section, you probably could remove it since we didn't actually style it. So all I'm styling is the image, setting a width 100% and a margin bottom 2 EM. So we go to news, we see our mountain man picture, and there's that picture of the couple with the dog. Little space there, so it kind of comes down below. And you could probably clean that up and do a line justified for that text there. Probably make that look a little better. That is looking good. I think we got it. One last thing I wanted to add, was in index.css. So I just had some small styling I added there. Save that, and just change the colors, makes the fonts a little lighter, thinner, a little more readable. So just a little cleanup. Great. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. If you like it, please like the video and share with others so they can find the video. Because the more likes and shares we get, the more easier it is for people to find the video. So thanks again, guys. Take care.